Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video I just wanted to talk about my favourite subject in the whole wide world, and that is Xena and Gabrielle and their relationship. They're our very own lesbian fairy tale come to life, and there's a lot to talk about. Most of you will know this pairing from the show Xena Warrior Princess, which aired in the 90s. I did do an epic 1 hour long review of that show, so if you haven't seen it, you should check it out because I have many skills. Anyway, this pairing consists of Xena, a very tall, stoic, broody warrior woman, and Gabrielle, a very small, chipper bard, and they're soulmates. Oh my god, and they were soulmates. Oh, that joke, I have to make it. And they came together against all the odds. It's very high romance. It's kind of ironic that this pairing started off on a network which was adamant about not having any lesbianism in it and went on to produce the greatest lesbian love story of all time. So I wanted to talk about the one true pairing of them all, the most romantic couple in lesbian herstory, and that age-old question of were they or weren't they? Well, as a spoiler, they were. So I'm going to start with the were they weren't they question. Even to this day, there's a lot of fights in the fandom about their relationship or the official status of their relationship, and I'm not really sure why, because they are canon. They're soulmates in canon, they're married in canon, they kiss in canon, and how anybody can read that energy between them as anything other than you're my one true love, and all the actual declarations of love between them, how anybody can just ignore this it's in the kind of denial delusion territory. Their relationship progresses a lot over these 6 seasons, but even from the first season we see how incredibly attached they get to one another, and the first season is quite emotionally intense, which shocked me when going back to rewatch the show. First off, straight away you feel this connection between the two of them, and second of all, you realise just how much Xena loves Gabrielle by the end of season 1 because of her reaction to Gabrielle's death. And you see just how much they need each other from this kind of emotional intensity and bond that they develop. Gabrielle is very gay-coded in the fact that she's an outsider in her own home, and she feels this attraction and this connection to Xena, and Xena also feels this connection and attraction to Gabrielle. You know, Gabrielle is very vocal about the fact that she doesn't belong in her hometown and she doesn't want to just get married and do the traditional thing. And both Xena and Gabrielle are very much outsiders in society, which it's pretty gay-coded, it is. There's a lot of inside jokes and subtext in the first couple of seasons, and whilst it points to a romantic relationship, we don't really get a confirmation of that until the quest, I would say, because the quest is where Xena leans in to kiss Gabrielle on the lips. Of course, in the show, just as their lips are about to touch, the shot switches back to Autolycus and Gabrielle, but of course, Xena is in Autolycus's body and controlling his actions. So it's still Xena kissing Gabrielle on the lips, and that's what Gabrielle is seeing, and Gabrielle doesn't pull away, which means she obviously either reciprocates the feelings or she's not surprised by the kiss. And throughout the series, there's a multitude of very emotionally intense moments between the pair, which portrays the depth of their connection to one another. You know, off the top of my head, episodes such as The Ides of March, Is There a Doctor in the House, When Fates Collide, Many Happy Returns, The Debt, The Ring Trilogy, I could go on. But there's a lot of these intense declarations of love and wanting to stay together no matter what. They're willing to die for one another, they search for each other even in death, and even in the afterlife, they stay together. So there is this residing message throughout the show that they are one together forever. The Ides of March in particular is, I feel, a turning point in their relationship because it's such a powerful expression from Gabrielle, who forsakes her spiritual vows to save Xena's life. And this loving gaze that they have with each other whilst they're getting crucified. Yeah, it's intense. And in the show, they not only grow as people, as their characters, but they also help each other to grow. You know, Xena is trying to make amends and come to terms with the person that she was in her past and who she is currently. And Gabrielle is trying to kind of hold on to her faith and her kindness no matter what she goes through. And they help each other with this, and they provide support for each other. So in terms of a confirmation that they're both soulmates and lovers, in Deja Vu All Over Again, this is pretty much confirmed. It's canon that they're soulmates. And again, in this episode, they kiss on the lips, but the twist this time is Xena is now in Joxer's body. So we're watching, well, future Joxer. But this wrong body issue does get remedied later on in the episode Soul Possession, so it is remedied eventually. In fact, I think in Deja Vu All Over Again and the Ides of March, it was made so clear what their relationship was. That is why the network asked them to completely cut back on anything like that in season 5. And we know what season 5 was like, apart from Daddy Gabrielle, who is literally a daddy to Xena's baby, but also looks like a daddy. And season 5 has some redeeming moments. It does. But it's still the worst season. So I think by the time season 6 arrives, their relationship is no longer subtext. It really is text in season 6. And I also felt their relationship was more monogamous in season 6. Because up until season 6, there had more or less always been a kind of side person for one of them. Of course, we do get Brunhilde in season 6, but, you know, Gabrielle lets her know that it's Xena. I still can't believe season 6 exists sometimes. I still can't believe in Return of the Valkyrie we have the most epic romantic scene of all time, with Xena stepping through a ring of fire, which only Gabrielle's soulmate may step through, and she kisses her on the lips and she awakens her. Like, what more proof does anybody need? Many Happy Returns is also a lesbian highlight in the show and highlights their relationship also. I mean, Xena gets Sappho. Yes, the OG woman-loving woman poet. I say woman-loving woman because I'm not sure that Sappho was a lesbian, but anyway, Xena gets, you know, someone who is basically known for her lesbian poetry to write Gabrielle a poem, and it's not friendship, it's no. And of course we have When Fates Collide, which is another huge portrayal of just how much they belong together, and no matter how Caesar tries to change the timeline and change fate, he can't stop Gabrielle and Xena falling in love with each other. And God, I love that episode. It's so romantic. Nobody likes the way that season 6 ended. Nobody likes that, you know, Xena died, but Gabrielle was off to start her own journey. I think it kind of wasn't in line with what the show was really about. But of course, a lot of the fandom just ignores a friend in need, and so do I. You know, the message of the show is they're intertwined together forever, so the ending of the show just didn't fit with that. That being said, nobody stays dead in this universe, and even if you are dead, the lines are very blurred anyway. But yeah, moving on. There's a lot of other stuff in the show which also supports the idea of a relationship, but of course a lot of it is wink wink nudge nudge inside jokes and subtext, you know, which is debatable, but what I've mentioned is canon and it's literal text, so it's not really up for debate whether they were or they weren't, because like they were. But that's not to say people can't interpret the relationship in other ways if they want to. I think it's more the fact that people just ignore that it's canon that can be a little bit annoying. But of course, if people want to interpret it as some great friendship, they should be free to do that, you know, because it's also nice to see friendships between two women on screen be the main focus. So, you know, I mean, friends who got married. Okay. Of course, it's no secret that the network was explicitly clear about not wanting this show to have any lesbianism in it at all, which is of course ironic. Given that it's the lesbian show, like I think it's up there with the L Word, and Lucy Lawless was in the L Word. And lesbians are the ones who, you know, mostly keep this show relevant, so yeah. Now, moving on to their sexual identities, this is less clear and this is definitely an area of debate, which is much more open because I see all sides of the arguments. In canon, both of them, in my opinion, are bisexual or they're both queer. There is an argument that Gabrielle was a lesbian later in the show, which I also see like a decent argument for, but to me, Gabrielle was always just very Xena-sexual, and to me, Xena seemed bisexual. You know, Xena has more consistent relationships and loves with men and women, but Gabrielle in the later seasons doesn't really show any interest in men at all. And in fact, in season 5, there was a kiss between Gabrielle and a guy, but Renee asked for the kiss to be taken out because she said it was out of character, which is, I think it's true in the later seasons. But Lucy Lawless has said that Xena is gay, but that's not canon. But I guess if Lucy Lawless says that, then maybe in the end they were both gay. Again, there's a lot of room for arguments and interpretations, so it's less clear. But to me, what looks like canon is that they're both, I don't know, like, we'll say queer to be safe. But that's just my take on it. Now, there are some kind of controversial discussions around their relationship, as it can sometimes be a little bit abusive, but I think that's very in line with the whole theme of the show. You know, Xena is an ex-warlord, so I always knew she was going to engage or relapse back into kind of negative behaviours. Like, the Gab drag is very controversial, but I think it was probably in character for Xena. What I don't think was in character was when she chaperoned Gab in season 5, but I think anything that happens in season 5, I take with a pinch of salt. Yeah, so Xena is this kind of ex-warlord who has this dark side, and it comes out every now and then, and Gabrielle has to navigate that. They both have to navigate that. And Xena is also guilty of putting Gabrielle on this kind of pedestal of innocence and purity. And of course, Gabrielle's a lot more complex than that. So when the whole Hope and Solon arc went down in the show, they both had to see each other in much more negative lights, and it got quite complex and messy, and they had to work through it in a musical. They did. I quite like the bittersweet though, so you know, it's fine. Xena could also be possessive at times, but I'm into it. What I love about this show is, even though the relationship started out as a bit of an inside joke, it was ultimately taken really seriously, and the creators weren't just using Xena and Gabrielle as a kind of, they weren't hypersexualizing the relationship or reducing it to solely a joke. They took it really seriously, and it wasn't in their favor to do that, and they did it anyway. So they really stood by this couple as soulmates. Like, a lot of shows would have just queer baited with this kind of a relationship, but Xena never did, and Lucy and Renee have always been really kind of respectful of the relationship. And, you know, the chemistry between Lucy and Renee is partially why the relationship exists in the first place, because I can't even describe the chemistry between them, but it's so, you know, as Rob said, it's lightning in a bottle between those two. I don't know what it is. There's just something there. Xena is one of the few shows where I feel like all the heteronormativity is performative, and all the kind of lesbian stuff is like the heart and the core of the show, and that's where the authenticity is. And I think the fact that Xena is a fantasy, or in the fantasy genre, gives us this kind of epic romance that we don't usually see on screen between two women. You know, it's like Shrek for lesbians. It really is. It's this just gorgeous fairy tale, and it's the kind of hero and damsel in distress dynamic, but then the damsel in distress also becomes a hero, and yeah. I also think they came about in a time where there wasn't much else to, well, I don't know why I'm saying I know they came about in a time where there wasn't much else to really represent love between two women seriously, or love between two women full stop. This was pre-L word times. This was before Bet. So it's like before Christ. And it's kind of, it's sad there hasn't been anything since. But that's what makes it so special. I think it just all comes down to their connection. You can feel the love between them. It radiates from the screen. I get emotional thinking about them. So yes, they are my favourite couple of couples. Renee liked one of my first comments on Instagram. She likes a lot of comments from fans, but it's nice to be acknowledged because she's very, she's cute. And I think Renee is a little bit fruity, to be honest, just because of some of the things that she's said in the past. But I won't go down that road because it leads to trouble. It does. But Renee, if you're watching this, I'm free. I am. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts on Xena and Gabrielle in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment. Instant disappointment. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.